Usually before I write a poem, it comes to me in my head and it sort of hangs around for ages. And once I've written the poem down, it stops bugging me. So it might keep me awake some nights. One night, my son Rob, when he was quite small, he just came into my room. I think he was scared, like children do. And he said, "Mum, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm just thinking, words, come into my head." And he said, "Well, can't you just go to sleep?" I said, No, I can't. I have to get the words out. So I wrote, "Words is what I'm doing." If you listen to the words. "What are you doing, Mum?" Robert said. "Isn't it time you were asleep in bed?" "Words is what I'm doing." "Words," I said, putting them together from a thought in my head. "Why do you write? It's way past midnight." Words is what I'm doing, and some express my joys and sometimes loneliness. Why can't words wait? You're up much too late. Words is what I'm doing, making them rhyme. They come into my head sometime. Why do words come? Go to sleep, Mum. Words is what I'm doing. They won't let me sleep. I put them all together and sometimes weep. Words is what I'm doing. They won't let me pray. I put them all together and sometimes they leave me alone. I always talk to the children in my workshop about playing out. When we were little, we played out all the time. So I've written 2 playing out poems. Some of the students in my group are about 10, so I've written a shortish poem called When I Was 10. A lot of children don't know what playing out is because they stay and have PlayStation and Xbox or things that we never had. We just had trees and parks. So I've written a poem called When I Was 10. I mentioned some of the characters. Mandy, my friend, said she never wants to get old. She just wants to be 10 forever. I remember that. Everything seemed better then. The trees were climbier, and the sky was bluer, and autumns were redder, and winters were colder. More when I was 10. Trees were so climby, birds were so near, skies were so bluey, and clouds were so clear. Autumns were redder and winters much colder, and sadly Miss Mandy would never get older, and all of us played in the woods and the den when I was 10. Birdie would play in the ladybird glade, and Sanderson smiled at the swings that we made. Tina was meaner when Robbie was there, and Sanderson laughed because he just didn't care. But Dorothy would not play with Ben when I was 10. Next to the gravel pits, then to the park. We'd better run home quick before it gets dark. Running through Woodlandly, feeling the breeze, foresty smells, an exhilarant breeze. Then Johnny would light the fire again when I was 10. Another poem I wrote about playing out was one called The Realm of Play. And a lot of Langley people might recognise Trench's Field and Brownie's Hill. And I used to live there practically. So I'd leave the house early in the morning and get home after 9 o'clock, scratched knee and torn up clothes, looking terrible. My mum would be waiting with a stick because she told me to be in 10 hours of it earlier. It's called The Realm of Play. When I look back and remember then, I wish I was that free again. But I know those days are a distant dream when the realm of play was a constant theme. At Trench's Fields and Brownie's Hill, I see them run and hear them laughing still. In that realm of play we could fly away. We had magic powers which we use these days. We could be goblins, ghouls and even witches. We played in the fields and in the park and in the ditches. At Brownie's Hill, I see them laugh and still remember still. Whether Mansion Lane or Middle Green, I still can see that endless scene at Kidderminster or Harvey Park. We invented stories until after dark. At Trench's Fields and Brownie's Hill, I see them run and hear them laughing still. I can still see Maureen, Gary and Jill running to the den as we climb the hill, and with our fire lit and our lunches made, we invented themes as we ran and played. At Trenches Fields and Brownies Hill, I see them run and hear them laughing still, 'cause poetry never stops. In 2010, I wrote a poem called The Rage in Albion. It's based on a homeless man who's lived under the flyover at Great West Road near Brentford. Many of you might have seen him with his placards. When I wrote the poem, it was because I saw one of his placards yet again, and it's the one that says, "A violent, brutal country, England." He's been there for many years. And it was also the launch poem for the Royal Berkshire Poetry Competition, and subsequently it's become very famous. I've had people inbox me on Facebook and send me letters from all over the world. It's also the GCSE assessment poem in many schools. A professor in Bhubaneswar in the district of Odisha in India wrote a review of the Albion poem, which is going to be published in many magazines and journals around the world. And I'll just read you the first 4 paragraphs of the review before I read the poem, okay? It's a review of the poem, The Rage in Albion. The poem is a combination of beauty and poignancy. It is a discovery in a trajectory path of rise and fall of human values and modernity. Cecilia is a soul traveller, a traveller apart in a literary romp afresh, tracing the thinning line of time and action. A voice for the voiceless, which she finds from nowhere. Rarely a homeless man under the bridge could arise such an inspiration to make him one of the most widely read poems of recent times. She tries to find the unwritten pages of life of a man who almost delivered a judgment on the mass masses of Britain. The flyover at Great West Road is now a symbol of modern Tintern Abbey, where one can see vividly contrasted images and the agony of mankind, which force Cecilia to stop and stare, and intone the world to feel the rage inside you. Cecilia uses words with a keen sense of their rhythmic and musical potentialities, and her style is richly figurative. These profoundly crafted rhythmic lines will endure and resonate forever in the souls who read it. Rarely does a reader encounter such sheer beauty of timeless and compelling imagery in her debut book to stand apart as the foremost publication in English literature. And that was the review of the Albion poem by Professor Mahapatra. He is a lecturer in English language in India, and he sent the review of the Albion poem and my latest book to many magazines, In Words of Canada for one, The Times of India, the Hindustani Times, the Criterion, and another 10 more journals around the world. I'm going to read you the poem, which I've had a lot of correspondence about, which I read in schools, and which many teachers in other countries have used to read to their pupils. And there is a chorus. It's called The Rage in Albion. The homeless man under the bridge had eyes that bled, and woke each night from his humble bed. He had no poetry or rhyme, no joy, no consequence or crime. He wanted only food and bed, and spoke of Albion with fear and dread. He held a placard with words that read, "England is a place of woe and dread, a country of no law or grace. England is a dreadful place." The poet asked his name, and the homeless man said, "I am the rage in Albion, I have no name, for I am England's burden, and I am England's shame. Mark my visage, mark my frown. I am the rage in Albion. I rise when the sun goes down. And when the single mother weeps on the other side of town, there will be rage in Albion when the sun goes down. The homeless man under the bridge held a placard that read, England is a place of woe and dread, a country of no law or grace. England is a dreadful place. Again, the poet asked his name, and the homeless man said, I am the rage in Albion. I have no name, for I am England's burden, and I am England's shame. I am the rage in Albion. Poet, do not weep. I lay awake at night when Albion is asleep. My eyes once blue are now blood red. I am the rage in Albion, the living who are dead. And when the poet weeps with sadness on the other side of town, there will be rage in Albion when the sun goes down. The homeless man under the bridge held a placard that read, England is a place of woe and dread, a country of no law or grace. England is a dreadful place. He looked me in the eye and said, Poet, do not weep. I only rise when Albion is asleep. Burdens they are many, but my heart is strong, and I roam in the night, for the days are too long. Mark my visage, mark my frown, I am the rage in Albion. I rise when the sun goes down. And when a little child goes hungry on the other side of town, there will be rage in Albion when the sun goes down. The homeless man under the bridge held a placard that read, England is a place of woe and dread, a country of no law or grace. England is a dreadful